The name de Havilland has been associated with aircraft design and manufacture since 1909, when Geoffrey de Havilland flew his first aircraft at Fulham, near London. Sadly, it crashed on its first test flight. It was later designated as the de Havilland Biplane No. 1. The following year, using the salvaged engine, he produced the de Havilland Biplane No. 2. Soon after, the Army Balloon Factory, later to become the Royal Aircraft Factory, purchased the aircraft and appointed de Havilland as assistant designer and test pilot. At the Balloon Factory, he was involved in designing a number of experimental aircraft. In 1912, de Havilland joined the Royal Flying Corps as a reserve officer. In 1914, rather than accept a promotion to management, he joined the Aircraft Manufacturing Company Limited, Airco, as chief designer. With the outbreak of war, he was briefly called to war service, but was very quickly released to return to design work at Airco. During the war, he designed many trainers, fighters and bombers designated with his initials DH, of which large numbers were flown in combat. In 1920, Airco collapsed, and with others, de Havilland established the de Havilland Aircraft Company at Hendon Aerodrome near London. Over the next 20 years, the company produced many military, commercial and sporting aircraft, as well as an experimental testbed aircraft. With its vast distances, Australia rapidly became an important market for aircraft. And in 1927, de Havilland Australia, or DHA, was established to sell, assemble and service de Havilland aircraft. Subsidiary companies were also created in Canada and New Zealand. The most notable and numerous aircraft produced in the period between the wars were the Moth family. Most were built in Britain, but many were built by subsidiaries and by licensees around the world. Also notable in this period was the DH-84 Dragon, a small commercial biplane, and its successor, the larger and more powerful Dragon Rapide. In 1934, Macpherson Robertson of Melbourne sponsored the England to Australia air race, billed as the world's greatest air race. De Havilland built 3 DH-99 Comet races specifically to compete in the race. One of the Comets was declared outright winner and another took third place in the speed race. The third aircraft failed to finish due to a shortage of aviation fuel. In Australia during the Second World War, DHA built 1,070 Tiger Moth trainers, 87 Dragon passenger planes, and 217 Mosquito fighter bombers. In 1943, Geoffrey de Havilland's youngest son, John, a test pilot with the company, was one of 4 people killed when 2 Mosquito fighter bombers collided during a test flight at Hatfield, north of London. In 1946, his second son, Geoffrey Jr., also a test pilot, was killed while test flying an experimental aircraft over the Thames estuary. That aircraft was a DH-108 Swallow jet fighter. The post-war era saw the production of the twin-engine DH-104 Dove, a successor to the Dragon Rapide. There was also a larger 4-engine derivative, the DH-114 Heron. In Australia, DHA designed and built the tri-motor DHA-3 Drover. De Havilland Aircraft very much established its place in the jet age, with the first flight of the prototype DH-100 Vampire fighter in 1943. Deliveries commenced in 1946. Over 4,000 were built, with 190 being built by DHA in Australia. Variants included the 2-seat Sea Vampire carrier-based fighter and the D-115 trainer, The DH-112 Venom, a further development of the Vampire, first flew as a prototype in 1949 before entering service in 1952. There were several variations, including a naval version, the Sea Venom. In all, 1,487 Venoms and Sea Venoms were built. The DH-110 Sea Vixen was also a carrier-based fighter built for the Royal Navy. The first prototype flew in 1949 with deliveries for service commencing in 1952. About 150 were built. De Havilland Aircraft is also credited with building the world's first commercial jetliner, the DH-106 Comet, coming into service in 1949. However, 3 catastrophic accidents caused it to be withdrawn for redesign and reinforcement. A total of 114 were built up to 1968, the last still flying in 2011. In 1960, de Havilland Aircraft was taken over by Hawker Siddeley Aviation, and in 1963 was incorporated as a division of its new owner. The last aircraft to be designed in Britain and bearing the de Havilland Company's DH designation were the DH-121 Trident, a jet airliner, and the DH-125 Jet Dragon business jet. Both aircraft later carried Hawker Siddeley's HS designation, with the HS-125 being marketed as the Hawker. Today, the legacy of the de Havilland Company in the UK lies with the aerospace company BAE Systems. In Australia, Hawker de Havilland Australia is now owned by Boeing. In Canada, de Havilland Aircraft of Canada Limited is still operating, but is now a subsidiary of Canadian company Viking Air. Geoffrey de Havilland was knighted in 1944. He died in 1965. Thankfully, many examples of de Havilland aircraft remain in museums around the world, including here at the Moorabbin Air Museum.